when it's just been one of those days. The one thing you need is a meal that tastes like everything's gonna be all right. Make it a day the Quarter Pounder way.
Hey there, don't lose your cool. Think of the Quarter Pounder. Beefy deliciousness to lift you up.
We're making it a day the Quarter Pounder way with McDonald's, and we're taking a look at the people behind the mics. Yep, the people that you normally hear. But right now we're going to take a look at the people or the person behind the people that you normally hear. Johan, how are you doing?
Lekker and you, JB.
I'm alive, my brother. I'm alive.
Wonderful.
Now, who is Johan?
Hey, man. Born and raised, small town little guy from Bethlehem in the Free State. Having a jaw, moved up here, chasing some passions and some dreams.
Chasing passions and dreams.
Yeah.
Now, apart from the passions and dreams that you're chasing right now, you look like you have something rather interesting that you kind of get into as well after hours. Can you tell me a bit more about what you're wearing?
This, my friend, is one part of a beekeeping suit, which I use in my spare time as a conservationist and a beekeeper.
So, in your spare time, you play around with bees?
In my spare time, I try and repopulate the bee figures.
I would never do that because I'm allergic to bee stings. But what does actually...
Why this helps.
Yeah, probably. What does beekeeping actually entail? What is it all about?
Oh, let me take this off. Give you a good example. Beekeeping in its own is just one big industry. And what I'm focused on a little bit more is the conservation part of it. Repopulating the numbers, getting those numbers back up. It's something that in the recent years we've seen a massive decline in. And yeah, we're just going out trying to put as many bees back into nature as possible.
So now, when did you decide that you would get into this, especially for the conservation side of it?
Man, I've always loved animals. And in that thinking, I wanted to start at a base point. You know, I'm no Steve Irwin trying to save every single animal on the planet, but beekeeping and the conservation side has been an interest my whole life. It only recently started to become something a lot bigger and a lot more serious, especially towards COVID side, where we got forced to stay inside. Not really having too much accessibility about moving around, but unfortunately nature doesn't wait for anyone. You know, we were a little bit restricted, but luckily we got a lot of opportunities to move around and still focus on the conservation part of it, still get bees out there, still work in big open spaces, farms, those sort of things.
Now, what are some of the misconceptions when it comes to beekeeping?
Oh man, I think bees in general, people see a bee, it's enemy number one, right? And it's very hard, even me, I'm kind of frillicky towards bugs and stuff. So anyone that encounters a bee, first frame of mind is shoo, get away.
Get away, yeah.
You know, and that just aggravates an animal. They're very clever, they're incredibly intelligent. So a big misconception is that you should be scared of bees. Although yes, they are life-threateningly dangerous when confronted. They understand as much as what we do, that we share space with them, that they share space with us. And they've got a very well understanding of that. And it's not a situation where you want to say, stay out of my way, I'm going to stay out of your way. But I think if you handle it with a certain temperament and a certain energy, then you've got nothing to be worried about.
Right. Now, from growing up, I've always understood that bees give honey. Even though you're trying to protect them and doing the whole nature thing about them, there's always honey somewhere in there.
Look, in the industry, we call it liquid gold.
Liquid gold?
It's liquid gold. It's a wonderful product that bees make.
Yeah.
It's from what we, as humans, know is the oldest food source and something that can never ever go off.
Yeah.
So it doesn't have an expiry date. I always joke around and say we build bees these incredible hotels to live in. They don't earn any money, but they do make a wonderful product, and I'll use that as rent. So I'll build them their houses, and I'll take a little bit of that liquid gold for rent.
Right, talking about the product, I believe you bought a little sample for us to see.
You ever had raw honey straight from the source before?
No, I've never been to the source before.
I've got a surprise for you, my friend.
I mean, being allergic, I don't want to get close to the source.
So, being allergic, this is probably one of the most healthiest things you can do, is microdose yourself with honey.
Okay.
Another big misconception is that if you are allergic to bees, then you should stay away from the honey, that you should stay away from the product. Now this, you can take your finger and squeeze that part over there, right?
Okay.
Just give it a nice squeeze, some honey will come out. Don't worry about that. Everything's edible, everything's safe. Give that a taste. It's a little bit of wax that's in between, but everything...
So I'm having wax.
So the bees built the honey into the wax. You'll taste it, it's super sweet. It's as natural as possible.
That is
like I said,
extremely
straight from the
sweet.
source. Straight from the source,
This is not
as
like
is.
candle wax, right? It's like,
Basically the same thing, just without the chemicals.
Right,
So this is natural wax.
so it doesn't drip everywhere. Right.
Very edible and probably the healthiest food source out there.
I should probably keep this away from kids, right?
They'll love it too. They'll love it as well.
Now, lastly, before we close off, what has beekeeping taught you as a person?
Wow, so many things. Taught me a lot about nature. Taught me a lot about protecting our environment, taking care of our environment, and observing our environment. Physically going out, seeing that there's been a big change since, for example, 2019, what flowers and what the general area would have looked like before we introduced bees to that area, and what it looks like 2-3 years later.
Okay.
And just seeing what abundance of animals have kind of joined that ecosystem once the bees started doing their job.
Oh, so make it a day, the quarter pound away. Da, 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 da.
When it's just been one of those days, the one thing you need is a meal that tastes like everything's gonna be alright. Make it a day, the quarter pounder way.